Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a fun fact-filled video all about how to go about buying new running shoes online. So sit back, relax, let's get stuck into this. Buying shoes online is not an easy process. Buying anything online isn't that easy. But it's what a lot of us rely on these days. Now, I'd always say with running shoes, it's definitely best if you can to get to a dedicated running store and have them fit you out in store, go through all the options, test them all out. But that's not always going to be available. So I've put together a little step-by-step guide to take you through the process of how I approach it. Everyone is going to be slightly different. So as always, let us know down in the comments, what do you look for and what are the most important things when you're buying shoes online? Right, let's get stuck into this. First of all, finding out whether you need a neutral shoe or a stability shoe. So generally in road shoes, we get neutral shoes or stability shoes. Stability shoes will have a little bit more support here on the inside of the shoe to support your arch if you're a little bit flat-footed. Now what you can do is something called the wet foot test. I'll link to it down below where you can find out a little bit more about this. But essentially you need to wet the underside of your foot and then stand on a bit of paper or a dark tile and see the impression that is left there. And then compare that to the diagram and you can see whether you are going to need a stability shoe if you're a little bit more flat-footed or whether you'll be okay in a regular shoe. Now around about 80% of the people in the world, a neutral shoe is going to be good for them, and the remaining 20% they're going to need that stability shoe. So how are we going to go about finding the right size? Well, generally you need to size up about half a size compared to your regular everyday shoes. Now every manufacturer is slightly different and even some models can be slightly different in their range. So it really is a case of looking at a website, something like sports shoes, which really give a really good indication across lots of different models, whether you want to size up or size down slightly depending on what they are. So I'd recommend having a look at sports shoes and looking at their size guide for each of the models on there. But if in any doubt, always go for something slightly larger. Our feet do swell up as they run and you want to have that little bit of movement in the shoe as well. If you do have a shoe around the house that you want to try on, then make sure you have around a 1 centimeter gap at the end of the shoe between the end of your big foot and the end of the shoe. You can just press your thumb down there and that's going to give you a rough indication of what it should be like. Something else to look out for when you're buying shoes is something called drop. Now this is measured in millimeters, tends to be the back of the shoe is slightly higher raised up, it's got a higher stack height than at the front. Now most shoes tend to be around about that 6 to 10 millimeter range. Some are completely flat. Now what I say for most beginner, intermediate sort of runners, try and find something with around about that 6 to 10 millimeter drop. That's going to give your calves and your Achilles some nice protection as you start out on your running journey. Later on down the line, you might want to progress to something a little bit more aggressive once your muscles have built up enough strength to cope with a lesser drop shoe. But a lesser drop shoe doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be any faster, but it's more of it will encourage more of a natural running form. Also really important to look at the returns policy that different manufacturers offer. Nike are one of the companies that offer a very generous return policy where you can get your shoes, use and abuse them, and if you don't like them, you can still send them back, even after you've got them really muddy and whatever it is, give them a full test. Now, not every manufacturer offers that sort of thing. Hoka used to, but then they took that away. So before you have that purchase, make sure you check out that returns policy and see how much testing you can do in the shoes in case you're worried about needing to send them back. A couple of final points before you make that purchase. Price doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be getting a better shoe. Yes, the more expensive shoes will be made of some more hard-wearing materials and they're more likely to be a little bit faster if we could have that generalization, but it doesn't necessarily mean the best thing. Some of the best shoes I've ever run in, something like the Hoka Mach 4, which I'm holding here, or the Reebok Float Ride, both shoes are definitely more in the affordable price bracket. It's only really the high-end race shoes you need to watch out for around about that sort of £200 price bracket. No one needs those shoes. Yes, they're nice to have, they're fast to run in, but if you are new to the game and you're just looking for a good, solid pair of shoes, as I say, something like this Hoka Mach 4 or the New Balance 1080 version 10 or 11 are going to be really good bets for you. And finally, before you make that purchase, check out some of the reviews here on YouTube. Find out the people that you trust, that you like. For me, I tend to steer clear a little bit of the manufacturers and the retailers because they've always got that vested interest in trying to get you to buy the shoe. So always ask, what is this person? Are they trying to sell anything else on top of it? Here on the channel, I buy all of this kit 100% with my own money. And yeah, you want to find someone that you trust when looking at your reviews. So the delivery person has been and dropped off your new pair of shoes. So what are you going to do now to make sure they're right for you? Well, obviously you want to try them on. As I said earlier, make sure you've got that 1 centimeter gap at the front of the shoe, just to allow for that little bit of play. You can put your thumb down there and make sure there's that nice gap between the end of your big toe and the end of the shoe. You want to also check the width and make sure you can move all of your toes around like that. And you've got a little bit of wiggle room there up at the front of the shoe so everything can move around nicely. You want to make sure you can adjust all the laces. Don't just lace them up straight out the box. Make sure your foot is nicely locked down and then take them out on that first test run. Now for those first runs, if you've got a nice big hallway in your house, then use it. I do, because we live in a block of flats here. Can run up and down the hallway as much as I like and just see how they feel. Make sure there's nothing slipping. Heel slip is a really common feature in shoes. This is New Balance 1080, really good for heel lockdown. And just make sure your foot is nicely not slipping up and down outside of the shoe there. I'll put a bad example on the screen now. And really, you're just looking to make sure they are comfortable. And if you've got a little bit more time, do that first run on the treadmill. Just make sure they're comfortable. You're not getting any hot spots and no rubbing around. The best pair of shoes is the most comfortable pair of shoes. I always say that. That's what you're looking for on those first few runs. So there we have it, guys. So I really hope there's a few tips and tricks there for when you're out next having a browse online looking for that next pair of shoes. Anything I've talked about today will be linked down below, as well as some of the YouTube reviewers that I trust and I have a look at when I'm browsing for those reviews online. Now, if you have some excess pairs of shoes or some things that didn't work out, I normally like to just shift them on eBay, or if they're slightly older, then I've just put them in the supermarket, car park, sort of recycling big bins that they have, and just sort of dunk them in there, and then they go off to be reused all around the world. I'll also link down below some other recycling programs, and shops like Runners Need always had big recycling bins that you can drop your shoes in as well. So that's it, guys. Thank you for everybody for checking out the best running hats in the business out on the website. Also, we've got the best technical tees, loads of stuff on the website to help with your running, and training plans as well to get you to that goal that you want to hit. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much to the Patreon legends and the YouTube supporters as well. Happy shopping and keep on getting it done. We'll see you in the next one.